Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa, two undefeated fighters. No love lost between these two. One of the big talking points this week was that exchange in the hallway. What did you make of that, Brett? You know, one side saying the other guy looks scared, one side saying, you know, the guy, you know, oh, here he is talking smack, and once the lights are on and the exchange happened, they're face to face, he does nothing. Is this much ado about nothing, or should we read something into that exchange?
I mean, it's probably pretty much ado over nothing. I mean, no sport more than ours gets that excited about two guys crossing in a hallway, two guys who are going to be fighting in a cage in a matter of days. I mean, we blow this thing out. Hey, what did you make of that? What did you make of that? But I will say that I found this one to be a little bit more interesting than some of the previous ones we've seen. I mean, again, in general, most of the time, these pre-fight confrontations, they just don't tell you much. But I think it's fascinating to listen to Israel talk about it. I mean, Israel has been playing mind games to me with Paulo Costa since 2018. I mean, I think that I'm probably biased because I saw it for myself at UFC 226 when he went in the back and he was giving interviews, and then Paulo came back. And I distinctly remember that he wasn't even looking at me at one point when we were talking and we were on camera. I was interviewing him, and all of a sudden he was distracted. He was looking over my shoulder, and he was really sizing him up, not only sizing him up, but kind of challenging him, talking a little louder, making sure that Paulo could hear him. And I think he was doing that because he just knew someday I'm going to fight this guy, whether it's on our ways up to the title or when I have the belt. I'm going to see this guy at some point. And so he acknowledged that. He embraced it right from the beginning and started to challenge and puff out his chest a little bit to Paulo Costa. So I think it's kind of fascinating that he's still doing that now. I mean, if you listen to both of those guys talk about that exchange, it was all kind of driven by Israel. You know, he was the one who then went up to him. He was the one who spoke first. He's the one who kind of had, and he keeps talking about, I wanted to feel the density of him. I wanted to call him skinny for a reason because I thought he would react to that.
Obviously, we know who Izzy is, right? We know that he's one of the best strikers in the sport right now. He is world class, right? Coming from that kickboxing background, so quick, great counter striker, but, you know, obviously great with his feet, great with his legs, great with his punches, is very elusive. And we know who Paulo Costa is. Paulo Costa is a very strong man who likes to come forward and, you know, much like I was saying about Brad Riddell, allergic to boring fights. The guy just is able to either knock you out or be engaged in a war like we saw with Yoel Romero. Any concern on your part that, you know, what we saw from the Romero fight with Izzy, where he was, you know, not engaging as much, waiting for Romero to bring the action to him? And, you know, we saw a lot of people after that fight, people were saying, Izzy's boring, he's all hype, all this stuff. Any concern that we see the same kind of performance, the same kind of fight this time around when you have a guy with a similar build to Romero, obviously a different skill set, but a similar build, and you have Izzy who's trying to counter strike, it produces a fight that just doesn't make those fireworks that we're all expecting. Do you have any concerns about this?
No. No, I have zero concerns about it. Yeah, Yoel Romero and Paulo Costa might have similar body styles, but their way of fighting could not be any different. Yoel Romero is a master at exerting as little energy as one can in a mixed martial arts contest and then exploding. You know, I mean, he's more similar to Lyoto Machida's fighting style than he is to Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa is a guy that just goes, moves forward. He's been saying that he's predicting a first-round knockout. You know, a lot of times in this sport, guys predict first-round knockouts, but I was having a conversation with his coach, Ariel Helwani, and Helwani told me he's been saying that all camp. You know, not when the cameras are on, when they're just sitting there. And Helwani he shared kind of an interesting story with me. He's like, you know, I'm always very confident. I'm confident with all of my guys. You know, I've had he's Patricio Freire, you know, Henry Cejudo, obviously. He trains some very, very great individuals. So he's like, I'm always confident. But there comes a time when I'm coming up, we're getting closer to a fight where I get nervous. You know, I remember I felt it when Henry was going to fight Demetrius the second time. And then I felt it here now that Paulo's fighting Izzy and this fight is finally upon us. And so I was saying, you know, I was kind of saying, what if Izzy does this and what if Izzy does that? And it was actually Paulo, you know, the athlete, who turned to the coach and said, Coach, relax, I got it. First round, I'm going to knock this guy out. I promise you. Those are the types of conversations that Paulo's having within his own camp. So he's very, very confident, and I believe he's going to go after Izzy. I truly do believe that we are not going to see anything like we saw in March.
You know, I asked you at the top if you thought that, you know, Izzy has a chip on his shoulder, something to prove. I really do believe that he does. I think that we are going to see an incredible performance from Izzy. Ultimately, who knows, if he wins or loses, gets caught, gets knocked out. I feel confident, and I know this always happens, every time we say this isn't going to go the distance. I feel pretty confident this fight isn't going the distance, and I don't throw that one around lightly. I really do feel like Izzy has something to prove. I really do feel like he was bothered by the criticism that he received after the Romero fight. I think the fact that he shaved his head and is going back to like early days Izzy, I think these things matter. Like he's very much spiritual when it comes to that sort of stuff. I think the fact that he was sleeping in the gym, like he told me, in his early days in China, he used to sleep at the gym.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.